Since ChatGPT 5 came out, there has been a lot of frustration with the new model. Seems like ChatGPT is no longer working with us. It's harder to get consistent good quality, and sometimes it doesn't even know what we're saying. But not everyone is frustrated, and the difference there is in the foundations of prompting. If your prompts are messy and you're throwing spaghetti on the wall, then yeah, the answers can be inconsistent, shallow, sometimes even wrong. In fact, the bad output in ChatGPT is actually a reflection of our prompts not being clear. And usually the prompts are not clear because we're bringing bad habits from real life communication into our prompting. If we're rambly, if we don't know how to prioritize our thoughts, if we just go on and on without knowing the point that we want to articulate, it's going to flow into the results of your ChatGPT output. So I'm going to give you 7 shifts that are really the 80-20 that look like small shifts, but give you a fundamental difference in the output quality of your ChatGPT. There's also a couple of ones I've not seen anyone talk about towards the end, so stay tuned for that. Let's get to the first 80-20 shift. Edit, don't pile on. Most people keep on clarifying their request in ChatGPT in a long conversation, right? That's what we're supposed to do, chat with it. But actually, research has found that there is a fundamental principle for how LLMs understand context. It's not that every time you refine, it remembers. It's more of a U-shaped context form. So at the beginning, it takes into context what you said, and at the end, it takes into context what you said. So here in the middle, things get lost. It's actually called the lost in the middle phenomenon. And there's a research paper by the University of Washington, MIT, and Google Cloud AI Research that find that you have to really go out of your way in order to make sure that LLMs can pick up gold in the middle. By default, it doesn't do that. So what I mean by edit, don't pile on is instead of just keep on refining by keeping on updating the instruction, you want to edit the instruction. Let me show you what I mean. Let's try an example. Say I'm reading this book on notes on complexity and I want it to help me summarize. Summarize the book called Notes on Complexity. By the way, ChatGPT is very good at understanding what you say, even if you type something wrong. So I never really bother correcting my misspelling. Okay, so let's say, it gives a summarization and it's freaking long. So I say, usually I would say, okay, no, make this shorter. Right, and then it will make it shorter. And I would say, no, give it to me in bullet points and remove, take away, right? And then it will continue to refine based on this. But then as you get further down and the conversation gets longer, what we see is it starts to lose some of the important context. And then all of a sudden it's forgetting things. All of a sudden it's not quite doing what you want it to do. So instead, what we want to do is come back to the instruction where you said something, but it didn't understand quite what you said. Click edit message and say,
make it brief, no more than 3 paragraphs, and use bullets, high, bold, key concepts.
This way, as you're continuing the chat, then ChatGPT still remembers, right? This is the beginning of our prompt. So it will remember this much better than if you had several iterations down below. Now you can take this to the next level and make sure ChatGPT knows your context inside out by using projects. This is a paid feature though, so if you don't want to pay for this, you can also go on Perplexity and use Spaces. That is free for now. But if you use Claude, it's also paid, called Claude Projects. So what you can do is, let me show you an example. With projects, you can have the chat, of course, but you can also upload files that act as context it should always keep in mind, and also give a custom instructions on how to interact with you within this project. So, and we'll go into instructions in a bit, but I just want to show you how as you're having chats specifically in this project, it will get organized, you won't lose them, and you can always come back to them, right? So whenever I do my monthly reviews, I come back in here and I start chatting with it and make sure that it understands how things are moving, and it will suggest different things that I can try. But Let me show you first on files. So this is a really basic setup. And before I show you, it's amazing how much it retains and it remembers things that I've said that I don't remember. And it's like, oh, by the way, you mentioned something in this file here that you said you wanted this. So are you still wanting that? So let me show you what I uploaded. And it doesn't have to be complicated. So what I'm working on in my business right now is what the E-Myth Revisited talked about, which is that you're the entrepreneur, you're the technician, and you're the manager in your business. And you want to be able to make sure that you take a more balanced approach in your business so that you get everything done and not feel this internal frustration. So I've uploaded the entire book in there. I've also uploaded this one YouTube video script from a Japanese entrepreneur who suggested some things that I want to try. And then I did a business coaching discovery answer that help ChatGPT understand what are the things that I want to achieve, what are the things that bring me energy, what are the things that drain me energy, so that it understands who I am and what I'm working towards. Just these 3 files. And I can go crazy here, but I didn't. I want to keep things relatively simple. And that's all you need. Once you upload that, in every single chat, you can say, let me just show you.
For things that drain my energy, can you identify them and list them out here?
All right, I'm giving you a peek into my life because this is exactly what I mentioned in the discovery doc. And let me know if you want my discovery doc template so you can also repeat this, because this has been life-changing for me. It can tell me, hey, these are the energy drains, right? That I specifically mentioned, not, the internet thinks are energy drains. So what I can then do is help me suggest workflows that can address the systems issue, right? And what it'll do is then take into consideration what I said and build something that's specifically for me, right? And then let's just use what we learned, right? Let's say I'm looking at these and they still feel pretty general. So what I would do here is
refer to the E-Myth Revisited ideas and give me something concrete.
Let's see if it's able to improve that. Right? Okay. So now it's specifically quoting the E-Myth Revisited. It is starting to give me the lens, right? Okay. Here we're talking about the technician. So here is the workflow, right? Okay. Here you are going between entrepreneur and manager, right? Now I have a better way of mapping what is happening in my life with creating a business coach that's basically like Michael from E-Myth Revisited. Of course, it's not going to replace him or his teams, but it's a quick and dirty way for me to just get on track and start to see how I can apply the learnings in the book to my business. So projects, hidden gem, if you're not using it and you have the paid version, you should use it. And if you don't want to pay for it, go into Perplexity and try Spaces just to get a hang of how to use these contexts. I won't go into details on what kind of files you should include in files versus what are the things that you should continue to upload in the conversations themselves. That's a whole nother video. But I will say this. As AI progresses, we all need to take better notes and have better knowledge management systems. This is probably a series I'm going to do in the future. Let me know if you're interested in that, because if you're not taking notes and organizing your knowledge, you got to start doing it now. Otherwise, you're just going to be bogged down with such watered down, diluted average information from all of these LLMs. This leads us to the second shift, which is instruction levels. Most people focus on the chat level. Okay, so you give it instructions on here's what I want you to do now, right? And that's it. But there's actually 2 more levels that we have to consider. And there is, let me give myself a little bit more space to do that. There is the system instructions, which overrides everything, which says something like, ChatGPT, you're a helpful assistant that helps people do this. And this is usually not set by any of us, but set by OpenAI. So the way that it instructs ChatGPT to work it will always have that top of mind. Okay. And then there's another one inside that we can set, which is more custom instructions. And you can do this on the profile level. You can also, if you're paying for project, you can do it at the project level. And let me show you what these mean. So on ChatGPT, if you go into your settings and you go to personalization and go to custom instructions, what you can do is, yes, you're using ChatGPT, but you want ChatGPT to interact with you in a specific way. So it could be something like, what should it call you? You know, if I have a nickname, I prefer it to call me. It can do that. What do? You can tell it you're a gastroenterologist, right? So it will have some understandings of, okay, if I'm talking to a gastroenterologist, I need to be thinking about things that's relevant to you. Then it have all of these things like personality. You can get it to be cynic, a robot, a listener, a nerd, right? You can choose that. It could be the traits that you want it to have, which is what I've put in here to make sure that it gives me information that's in the right tone, in the right format, giving me how much information I want, giving me any, cited studies, URLs, give me anecdotes, give me cross-domain thinking every single time. So it helps me think. But for you, you might not want this, right? You might want to say, hey, get to the point, give me everything in bullets. Think about you are a consultant for a CEO, right? That could be what you prefer. Or you could prefer to be more creative. All sorts of possibilities here. You can customize it to what you want. Same thing with anything else that it should know about you. So, for example, for me, I don't want to specify this because this is my personal account. I have a separate work one. So I don't want it to just give me context around something specific. I want it to be more my brainstorming partner than an execution partner only, which actually I'll talk about in one of the shifts later on. So before we get there though, I don't want it to be so narrow focused. That's why I tell it, okay, this is what I usually do. These are usually the topics I talk about. This is usually my goal, and have it in the back of your mind, but I don't want to write YouTuber here because I don't want to narrow content around that. So that's a personal choice, but you might want to do differently. So at the custom instruction level, you can set to let ChatGPT know this is how I like things. So for example, when we both type in the same question, let's say, why is the earth blue? You will get a very different answer from my ChatGPT because mine will, it will look at least 3 different domains and help answer the question. It might say like philosophers say this, artists say this, and scientists say this, right? Whereas yours, if you just do default, it probably give you a direct answer. If you have your own custom instruction, it'll give you something different. That's one. And in projects, if you're using the paid version, then what you can do is add also how ChatGPT can best help you with this project. Let's say I don't really want it to act the way I set in the profile section, but I specifically here want it to reflect back to me. Because this is a coach, I want it to give it some coach qualities. So I end up doing a lot of rambling here. So I want it to be able to organize the ideas for me, analyze my priorities for me, find the key leverage points for me, dig the vague parts for me so that I can just talk, right? I'm not trying to organize my thoughts here. I'm trying to get it to organize my thoughts and pick out things that I miss. I wanted to ask questions, which usually I might not want it to always do that. I wanted also to challenge me here and reference back to the discovery doc and identify inconsistencies because sometimes I can't remember what I wrote in the discovery. Sometimes I'm growing and I want it to actively seek those things out. So that's how you can get ChatGPT to give you what you want, right? By giving it the right context in the right places. And this way, then, once these things are set and then in the chat, you give it instruction, it's going to understand you so much better and it's going to be able to perform so much better. So you're missing 80-20. This is the 20% that a lot of people are missing. Set these first. The third thing that we're going to shift is instead of hoping ChatGPT understands what you want, we specifically ask for features. And this will give you a very consistent and really detailed way of using some of ChatGPT's features. So if you click on plus, you'll see that it's got all sorts of features like this: agent mode, deep research, create images. Another really good one is actually Canvas. So what you can do is either click plus here to make sure it knows you want a canvas, or if you don't do that, make sure you mention, give me a canvas of a summary of the book. Let's say, I'm reading Notes on Complexity, so let's use that. Notes on Complexity. Now, what Canvas does is instead of giving you an answer in the chat itself, it will create basically ChatGPT's version of Google Doc, where then you can go in there, you can edit it, you can copy it, you can download it. So let's just wait for it to finish so that we can edit. Okay. So here, let's say instead of calling this the problem, I want to call it the problem on complexity. Perfect, right? Just like that is edited. I don't have to go back into the chat to say, hey, can you edit the problem to the problem on complexity? You can just directly do this and work together with ChatGPT. And it'll be able to reference the changes that you have made. And then you can copy it, share it, or show changes. That's possible too. Other things you can do is, choosing deep research or agent mode. I've talked about this in another video, so check it out here. But being specific on what features you want to use will help ChatGPT better understand what it is that you're looking for. The fourth shift we're going to make, and it's something actually we should also make in real life if you haven't used that already, is to talk with headers and format what you're saying, both verbally actually in communication. So what you want to do here is, instead of saying something vague like this, right? We learned in the first shift that we should clarify this. So let's say first, let's give it some headers. Let's say, give me the...
I want the core idea, the counterintuitive ideas, the problem plus example, and the solution plus next steps.
And this way we have a header, right? And when we send this, it's going to refine that output to exactly what we want it to give us, right? It could be that what we're looking for is actually what is it that we don't understand now, right? So this way it helps us highlight what's relevant. That's the first thing, right? And beautiful, it gives us very well documented thing. Let's say then you want to ask it for something, a few things that you want to change.
Say, the solution is not clear enough, add more scientific backing. Maybe the next steps are too vague, give me one example each. The problem is also not quite clear. What is linear thinking and how does that really differ from complexity, right?
So we're going on blah, 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 and we're jumping from solution to backup to problems to next steps. Now, if you just take a moment to say, okay, 3 edits, right? And we say 1, this is a solution, 2, this is the next steps, 3, the problem is also not clear. If we really want to go for it, we want to do it in order, but it's not necessary. ChatGPT understands. Then it's going to be able to focus exactly on what it is that you want it to do. And also, you have a better idea of making sure that ChatGPT did what you asked it to do, right? So you can say, oh, okay, if let's say it missed one of these things, you can say, okay, go back to number 2, instead of saying go back to and then relist exactly what you wanted to do. And if you see, oh, okay, actually it understood everything, but not 2, what you can do is also edit the message, right? So this way we don't stack on a bunch of unnecessary context and get a really muddled answer at the end. And that brings me to the next shift that's important. And actually that's on our side, which is we need to know, are we in the explore or execute phase? Now, what a lot of people combine together is that they're not quite sure if they want to explore or if they want to execute. And so the information you feel like it's not quite helping you. And what I mean by explore versus execute is, are you brainstorming ideas? Are you looking for more generative ideas? Or are you looking to execute exactly what's in your mind, right? If you're looking to explore, you can be more vague and you can tell it things like, give me 10 options, right? Whereas if you know you're in execute, then you need to spend more time on here's the goal, here's the context, here's the specific tasks I want you to do, right? And list those out. So let's come back to our example. Let's say, based on this, I realize, wait a second, this looks like it's trying to execute on something, but actually I'm trying to understand the book. So what I would do is ask it, okay, so
help me brainstorm, not execute. So I'm looking for more ways to apply complexity theory in my life. Help me think of 10 ways to do this.
And this way, because you know what your goals are, you're going to be able to better prompt ChatGPT to let you know how to work with you, right? So now instead of having this version, I actually get something that's more useful. And then maybe I look at this and I'm like, okay, I'm actually ready to execute. I want to turn complexity theory into a personal productivity YouTube script. Okay, so
help me create an output, a YouTube script on personal productivity and how it can benefit from complexity theory with examples and anecdotes.
Then what I'm going to be is really specific on what kind of output I want, right? So the goal is to share something counterintuitive. Okay, the format, let's say, is 5 minutes. Tone is business, casual, lots of distilled to the point explanations, right? So now it understands that, oh, okay, now we're changing gears and now we're focusing on doing output. And let's practice what we learned so far, right? Let's say, put into Canvas. Then I'm going to have something that I can actually edit and make sure that I don't have to go back and forth to say, oh, edit the hook. I want it to be like this and not that. I can just directly put it in. And then you don't have to worry about, is ChatGPT writing in my tone or not? You can directly edit this. Now, I want to bring this to another point, which is about generate versus critique. So we talk about LLMs, we talk about ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity as generative AI, right? That it helps us generate. So we're always thinking, okay, help me write this, help me create that, help me look into this. But actually, it has another really powerful tool, which is to critique that we don't use enough, which is I already have something written, which is usually the case. I have a YouTube script idea here. I have bullet points here. Help me critique it. Help me make it better. Help me see the gaps that I don't see. And everyone is too over-focused on this and feeling like, okay, ChatGPT is not using my tone. ChatGPT is very basic. Well, you can give it things that's not basic and help it make your output better. So, for example, we have created this from ChatGPT. It's generated. So what we can do is ask it to critique it. And here, what you can use is, let's combine some of the things that we learned, right? We can give it a role. So what I'll do here is
be a YouTube performance consultant, okay? And help me analyze how to make this YouTube video more engaging.
And the next best thing is you can get it to help you understand the principles behind how it edited this. So let's say,
give me the principles and rules you used to make the script better. List it out in bullet points and cite any psychology, behavioral science sources.
So here it's listing out the things you have to keep in mind. Now, the next exciting thing is then you can just take this whole part, create a file, create a project and upload it to that project. So every time you have a YouTube video that you wanted to analyze, you can do it there. Plus, this is only a simple distillation, right? And we can actually use deep research to find even better sources. Maybe you follow gurus who talk about this and you can get their YouTube transcript, podcast, interview transcripts, feed it all as files inside the project so that every time you have something for it to review, it will use these specific things to review. See how we're putting all of these things together now? Which leads me to the 7th shift, which is about examples. No examples versus one shot versus few shot. So what I want to talk about here is, and you see me allude to this here, is that ChatGPT learns really well through examples, just like humans, right? Sometimes we can't clearly explain, let's say, the playfulness in the text that we want it to generate, or the small but building excitement that's coming out. And when that's the case, you want to have some swipe files of examples that you can show ChatGPT, because the default for most people is they tell it, hey, give me a playful, let me show you, right? Let me say, give me a playful poem or maybe summary of the book, The Little Prince. Okay. And it's just going to try to make it playful, right? I don't know. This sounds really basic, actually, not super playful, right? But if you give it a one shot, basically one example, then it will understand a lot better what you're trying to say. Let's say, I'm going to make this up. So let's go back, edit this. For example, something like the little prince was like a stubborn puppy. Let's say that's the kind of vibe I want it to have, right? So then what you can do is see how it will take your example and apply it, right? So now it's changing the tone a little bit, is using ideas, bringing in CEOs, talking about the bonsai world, immediately changes, right? Now you can also do few shot. So a few examples. And here, actually, there's a really great thing that's very underused that I want to share with you, which is few shot can be a few of positive examples or a few of positive and negative examples. So these are the things I want you to do. This is not what I want you to do. Let's say, for example, Dr. Seuss and who else is playful? And Malcolm Gladwell are good, but not like, let's say, I don't know, Jimmy Fallon. Okay. See if that and understands what I'm saying. Now, as you'll see, the output is very different again, right? It's more about storytelling, it's more about rhyming, it's more about finding the hidden truth. And it knows, okay, I'm not actually looking for a more casual way of talking about this. So this way, you can really hone in on exactly what you want. But of course, you have to be able to articulate that and know exactly what it is that you want, which is why we went through this process up here. We went through the explore versus execute process. We also went through the generate versus critique, which is actually building to help you understand exactly what it is that you want ChatGPT to create. Because in the end, bad prompting comes from not being clear about what you want, right? And when you don't know what you want, ChatGPT also don't know what you want, and it defaults down to the average. Let me know which tool you like best, and check out this video here for another AI tool that's going to help you visualize all the things that you're thinking about. See you in the next video.